Hey everyone, welcome to the PriceLabs webinar. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we'll get some housekeeping items out of the way while we're waiting for more attendees to show up. Um, this is being recorded, so we'll share that recording with you later today or tomorrow after it's generated. So this is again being recorded. If you do have any questions, we've got the Q&A enabled in the webinar. So leave questions for the Q&A, and then the chat will just be like, I don't know, general comments. In fact, if you want to chat in now, kind of where you're calling in from and how many properties you have, that'd be great. Um, I'm David. I'm a solutions consultant here at PriceLabs. I work primarily with customers in the Western United States that have like 30 properties or more. I've also got a couple team members on that will help with monitoring the Q&A and the chat. Um, let's just go ahead and get started with the agenda. So today's topic is market dashboards. We'll cover what they are, how to use them, and how they can be integrated in other parts of the PriceLabs product. So what are market dashboards? They are basically like a huge report of data for any given area around the world. So essentially what you do is you type in an address and select a radius, and PriceLabs will pull in all the short-term rental data from within that radius and present it to you in easy to use or easy to understand charts and data points, things like that. They can be used to identify popular demand trends, amenities that are popular in the area, understanding competitors' pricing, um, and analyze for investment opportunities. So it is a separate tool from the dynamic pricing product that most people associate PriceLabs with. So market dashboards, let me try to move my mouse, but the price is at the bottom of my screen. So if you want information for up to 1,000 listings, it's $9.99 per month, US dollars, and 19.99 a month for 5,000 listings and 39.99 a month for 10,000 listings. Um, if it's hard to see, it's down here at the bottom. But it also, as you're creating one, you'll have the option to select which one you want, and it gives you the price right there. So it's no surprises. Start out with one credit to use. One credit starts gets you the $9.99 per month option. So that's how that works. Um, some let's see. There might be some changes in market dashboards coming, but I'll talk about how they currently work. Some other reporting tools in the market do it by zip code or things like that. PriceLabs does it again by the address and that centralized radius. So I'm going to jump in and just kind of show you how to get to market dashboards in the tool. So when you log in, you land on the pricing dashboard page in PriceLabs. Yours might look a little different. This is my demo account. But then you click market research and then market dashboards. When you click that, it'll come here and you'll either have, if you've already created market dashboards, you'll have them listed here, or you'll just see this create dashboard option. So I'm just going to walk you through quickly how you'd create a market dashboard. If you have an address in mind, like of a property or whatever, great. If you don't, and you're just like, I'm interested in learning more about, I don't know, the Denver market, whatever it might be, um, then a good suggestion is look up on a map like a nearby post office or a Walmart or something like that, and just use their address. So I'm gonna type in a post office in Salt Lake, which is close to where I live. And you just, again, I think you can understand this part. And then it's in kilometers. So any of my friends who are used to miles, I think it's about zero point 0.6 is the conversion. So I'm just going to put in 8. I can come back and change this radius later on, but I will go with 8 for now. And then this next page is going to give us the center point and then the outer radius. And you can zoom in on it. You can, if you're using like a mouse or your keypad, you can um, scroll in using that as well. Um, And then I can move this. So let's say I don't want to be so close to the mountains. I want to be a little bit more like this area. You can move it, but make sure, like, once you move it around, make sure your center point is where you want it to be, because after you create the dashboard, you can't move the center point, but you can expand or reduce that radius. Um, if for some reason this is too big or not big enough, you can just go to previous and change this, maybe I want a smaller area. I can click continue, and then from here I can click continue again. It's going to ask me to give a name, so I'll just say SLC. It's telling me in that 5 kilometer radius, there are about 1,800 listings. So which option do you want? Most people can get away with like the 1,000 listings. It gives you enough data points and everything like that. But if you're in a larger area, maybe you want more listings. And then within, like, you can create a broad market dashboard, and I'll show you soon how you can create comp sets within that dashboard. So maybe you're in a big metropolitan area, um, then maybe a 10,000 listing dashboard makes sense, and you can, maybe like the LA area, for example, like you've got a Hollywood market dashboard and a um, I don't know, other areas, right? near near there. Um, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But again, that's how you'd create a dashboard. You click generate dashboard. I'm not gonna do it for this one. It'll tell you if you're using any free credits. Um, Also in the top left here, it says credits left. And then it takes, depending on the size of the dashboard, it does take a little bit of time for them to be generated. So it'll say something over here, like you'll see this new line and it'll say like, I forget what it says, but like creating dashboard something, but the button's grayed out. You can't click on it yet. So just refresh your browser like every couple of minutes. And then when it's ready to go, it'll look like this and it'll say show dashboard. Okay. So again, that's high level. We have help articles on, creating dashboards if you need any extra guidance on that. Um, there is a question about the recording. Yeah, we're going to send the recording to emails later on today. All righty. I'll kind of come back to our agenda or slides here for a minute. Um, One thing I do want to, before I get into this, know your KPIs or your key performance indicators, I do want to talk about our data sources. So we have like an incredible data science team, and we scrape all our own data from public sites like Airbnb, VRBO. Well, for market dashboards, specifically Airbnb and VRBO or Verbo. And so like our team is more efficient at doing that than maybe you or I are at going around and clicking and checking around on OTAs, right? Like maybe you guys have done this before where you just click on your competitors' calendars and you kind of see which dates are available and which dates aren't and kind of see what prices they're charging. PriceLabs does that every single day on every Airbnb and Vrbo listing worldwide. So we're checking their rates and availability, and basically if we see on one day it was available at $100, and then the next day when we scrape again, it's unavailable. Sorry if you can hear the dogs barking. But if the next day you see it and it's unavailable, we assume that it was booked at that $100, right? So there are some assumptions based on that. And since it is scraped data, like there is some margin of error, right? But the with that, the larger the sample size, the better, right? So if you're looking at like a specific listing in PriceLabs, market dashboards, like one specific listing might have some noisy data, but if you aggregate it, maybe like 30 plus or as many properties as you can. I'll talk about that'll make more sense when we're talking about comp sets in a little bit, but just again, I want you to kind of keep in mind the source of the data. And our data science team does a great job of removing kind of what I'm calling noisy data that might not be super applicable. Whether that's what we call like ghost listings or block removal, things like that. All right, so back to the slide here. Knowing your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Um, Great question, Kate. So for the purposes of market dashboards, we're just looking at Airbnb and Vrbo data. We do scrape data from Booking.com for hotels, and that is in a separate part of the tool. So maybe Adam or Layla can share a link about the hotel data tab. Um, Okay, the prices. Okay, I'll get into that here in a little bit. It's typically going to be the nightly rates that we're getting from from the OTAs. So, Ali, yeah, it's basically the nightly rates. We'll kind of get into the details of the different reports when we get in there, but it typically would exclude taxes and fees. Okay, we do have sections on fees, like cleaning fees that people are charging in the area. So we'll handle that too. All right. So ADR stands for average daily rate. It's the average daily rate of booked nights. So if you're looking at a month time frame, it's your average daily rate for that entire month. If you're looking at a year, it's your average daily rate for the year, right? Or a week, whatever that time frame is that you're determining. So if you're kind of breaking it down monthly and you've got an ADR of $150, that just means your average daily rate that of the booked nights in that month was $150. Okay. Occupancy, most people kind of get this one. If it's a 30 night month and you're booked 15 of the nights, you're at 15% occupancy, right? So it's a percentage of the days booked out of the total nights in a time frame. So most people get these two numbers. They make sense, um, but we always say they don't always tell the whole picture. Like you could have really great occupancy. Maybe you're at 100% occupancy, but you're only getting $10 a night, like a really low ADR. Like that, there's room for improvement there, right? Maybe you're selling too cheap. On the flip side, you could be booked one night out of the month at $1,000, which maybe that's a good ADR in your market, but your occupancy is super low, right? Whatever 1 divided by 30 is. One of these days I got to memorize that number. But the point I'm trying to make is like that's where RevPAR comes in. What RevPAR does is it actually multiplies the formula is ADR multiplied by occupancy. So I'm just gonna kind of pull up a calculator real quick. So let's just say trying to I'll just put it here. Let's say your ADR, maybe you're getting $150 a night, and we're looking at a month, and the occupancy for that month, I'm going to put it in decimal form, is at 65%. So what is your effective revenue? What is your take-home revenue per night is how you can think of RevPAR. So that's $97.50. So if it's a 30 night month, if we multiply that by 30, that would give us basically our revenue for the month. I know I did that kind of fast, but revenue stands for RevPAR stands for revenue per available rental. You'll also see it as RevPAN sometimes in the industry, which is just revenue per available night. Um, it's it's kind of to see how much effective revenue you're making on your rental kind of on a daily basis, and it balances both ADR and occupancy with that. So again, it helps paint a clearer picture of what's going on. All right, booking window is how far in advance people are making their stays. In other words, some people call this lead time. So if I was a guest booking your property and I booked it 35 days from now, my booking lead time for my specific booking is 35 days. Um, you kind of take all those, average them out together, and that's the average booking window. Okay. Now, length of stay is the number of nights booked for a reservation in the market, or how long I'm staying when I book my stay. So even though I might book it 35 nights in advance, or my lead time would be 35 nights, I'm staying for 3 nights, so my length of stay is 3 nights. Okay. Again, take all those, average them together, and it's your average length of stay. All right, and then pacing isn't necessarily a metric or KPI in and of itself. It's kind of how you talk about the other metrics, like how you're comparing to different periods of time or comparing to the market. For example, my occupancy might be 85% and the market's occupancy might be 80%. So I'm pacing ahead of the market. You can even say by 5%. Or maybe my occupancy is a little lower than it was last year at the same time. So I could say my occupancy is pacing behind. Okay, so you'll hear me as we're talking about the charts using that term pacing fairly often. All right, let's get into how we can use market dashboards to gain a competitive edge. So we're gonna wear a few different hats as we're going through the market dashboards today. We'll have our investors hat on. If you're an investor looking to invest, what areas of market dashboards might be of interest to you. New property managers and owners, as well as operating or existing property managers and owners. Okay, so I mean, I think all the reports can kind of mesh in all three, but we'll kind of I'll mention, hey, might be particularly useful if you're looking to invest in a new market, as an example. All right, let's get back into PriceLabs. So we talked about how you get to the market dashboard page, creating a market dashboard. If you followed along and you created one while um, I've been rambling on about KPIs, then refresh your browser and see if it's ready to show. If not, just follow along with me, and maybe when we send out the recording later, you can kind of follow along with yours live. So I opened up this one that I created a while back, just called Austin Webinar. It's on this tab. And just to kind of quickly orient you to what is in the market dashboards, we've got up here is where you can select your comp set. By default, it just shows the whole market for Airbnb. Um, you can, if you just want to do a quick and dirty bedroom filter, you can drag these toggles down. Maybe you want to see like everything from 2 to 4. You click apply. I'm not going to, but if you clicked apply filter, all of the data in the reports below would change. Okay. There's some kind of summary data over here. You can jump to different parts of the report here, and then we have help articles built in as well. At the top here, we've got our KPIs. We're looking at the last 365 days for this. You can also change it to last 30 or last 7. And these little red or green numbers are just showing how it compares with the previous, in this case, 365 days, or the previous 30 days before the last 30 days. Okay, so here revenue for this market is down about $3,600 compared with the previous year. RevPAR is down a bit, occupancy is down, ADR. So all across the board, those are all down a little bit. Number of active listings has increased slightly. Number of bookings is up, so that's good. Booking window's gone down a bit, and then length of stays, apparently, I guess it stayed at 3. Cool. Then let's see. This area we'll come back to and talk about in more depth, the listing map and Compsets area. So there is a map of the listings. These dots are live links to Airbnb links. So if you click on them, it'll open up their link in a new tab. This is the Compset creation area. We'll come back to this soon. I'm just going high level of kind of what is in a market dashboard. This is a market summary. We're showing the last 2 years data in the market for revenue, RevPAR, ADR, occupancy, booking windows, and length of stays. Okay. Summary table here of some of that data above. Supply and demand. We'll kind of come back to all of these in more detail later. Future occupancy and bookings, future prices, day of week stuff, length of stay, booking window trends. Again, we'll come back to these in more detail. I'm just kind of giving a high level overview of what's in the report. Amenities, desired amenities, policies and fees. So if people are doing weekly or monthly discounts, how much, cleaning fees, what cancellation policies are common in the area, max number of guests, extra person fees, and this can all be exported as a PDF. Okay, so let's see, let me get my notes. If we are wearing our market or our investor hats, um, we would probably want to create like specific comp sets. So let's kind of jump into that real quick. Comp sets can be created in a few different ways. Again, here's kind of our larger radius. If I wanted to kind of separate this or slice and dice this geographically or regionally, up here in the top right in this gray little menu bar that pops up when you hover on the map, you have an option of doing like a box select or a lasso select and then drawing an area around the map that you specifically want to see. So I'm just going to do a little box for this purpose, and maybe I just kind of want this general bottom right area, okay? Like a little bit closer to downtown, but not quite into the downtown Austin area. Once I select or draw around that specific area, the rest of them get grayed out a little bit, and I'm just focusing on this section of my map. Then you scroll down, and this data is going to show just from listings in that square that I made. Okay. If you don't want to slice and dice it geographically or regionally, you don't have to. Like maybe you wanted the whole thing and you created the whole thing for a reason, just skip that part. But this next part, you'll want to make sure you're understanding. So um, down here, it's already on create new comp set. And then I can start filtering listings here. So I can say I want to look specifically at, I don't know, 3 bedrooms in the area. You can do bathrooms. I generally leave bathrooms blank just to pull in the bedroom sizes, but if you want to, you can do bathrooms. Listing type, these are all like what they come through from Airbnb as, right? So hopefully my microphone is cutting out most of the noise of my barking dogs. My neighbor is out mowing his lawn, so I apologize if it's distracting. Um, anyway, again, if you want to like you want to do specific things here, like the entire homes and everything, you can select those, or maybe you have some fun. Um, maybe you're a tiny home operator and you want to see what other tiny homes are in the area or stuff like that, right? Um, if you have a max number of guests, maybe you want to compare like to like, and maybe you sleep 10, you want to just see other people that can sleep up to 10, right? Just throwing out ideas, not saying you have to use all of these, but explaining what they do. Star rating, maybe you want to look at like, you're never going to go below 4.5 stars overall. So you want to be compared with other people that are in the same ballpark. Pro tip, if you are hovering on it, so it's selected, see how it's kind of lit up, you can use the arrow keys on your keypad or keyboard. That was weird. Keyboard to move it right or left if it's kind of hard to get to the exact number you want. Okay, thanks, Kate. It sounds like my microphone is working because it is kind of loud over here. I'm trying not to get distracted myself. All right. The reviews, maybe you want to see people that have at least 3, right? And on Airbnb, 3 is that magical number where all of a sudden now you have your star rating showing, right? Um, uh, you can filter out things here. Minimum, like you can hover on all of these and it gives you some explanations. Some general good ideas. Again, since this is scrape data, maybe we want to filter out some of that noisy stuff. So occupancy, maybe, if anybody's under like 25%, maybe we don't want them showing up. What I should have been showing at the very bottom of this, there's a listing count matching the criteria. So as I've been making, oh, there, now it's sticking. Ah, I went too far. Let's try this again. Okay, so as I'm making these changes, like maybe I bring this back down to, I don't know, 9, this 38 should increase, right? And maybe I'll open this up again. Because again, because it's scrape data, you want to have as many listings as possible in your comp set. I've also seen people that are like, hey, I'm just gonna be very specific and have just like I understand, I get it, David, right? Like it's scrape data, but I'm gonna pull up these specific 5 listings that I want to keep an eye on for whatever reason. I've seen people do that and they have their reasons. As long as you understand, that's fine. But in general, best practices have as many listings as you can. Um, Again, other things you can filter out. Uh, if you're maybe on the beach, you've got beachfront, lakefront, different things here, right? If you have a pool, maybe you want to do, only people with pools, and now there are only seven, right? And you can compare it. You can create two where there's one with pools and one without pools, and you can compare the two together. Great. Let's see. I'm not going to go through each of all of these, but if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A and we'll get those answered for you. So once I click apply filter, this little section, it shows 10 at a time. But if you look here, there are 5 pages, basically 41. If you wanted to be really picky about these, you could click on that Airbnb link and it'll pull up and you can say, yes, this is one that I want to have myself compared to. Then you can go through each one and check the box. If you're like, hey, you know what? I filtered out what I mostly wanted, so let's go ahead and select all. And that will select all the listings on the 5 pages. If you notice up here in the parentheses, it now says 41. Select page would just select the current page that you're on. Some other pro tips. Um, if you're like this section, this area between the header and where data starts is clickable, if that makes sense. Like you can actually add things in here. So and filter out by that. So you can use things like, I don't know, less than 5 for minimum stay. And let's see, now it'll filter out anything that's less than 5, which you could have done here in this filter listings option. But I guess I bring this up because if you have specific like listing IDs that you want in your market dashboard and you have like this one, this I'm pretty sure right here, and the URL is the listing ID, or even host IDs can be added. So this column visibility, like if you wanted to get really particular about everything that's going on, you can add additional columns here and kind of filter out that way. So on Airbnb, if you have their host ID and you want to see like, hey, I've got this particular host in my area is one of my main competitors. I want to see like their listings. You can put in their host ID here and it would just show their listings. Okay. Again, some of that might be a little bit advanced, but if it doesn't apply to you, don't worry about adding it. If that sounds awesome, then go through that and reach out with any questions. Anyway, I did select all just to create this Compset. I'm going to call it webinar test 3. Okay, 3BR. A couple things about naming, which I hope we fix eventually. Do not use symbols. So no ampersands, no dashes, things like that will give you an error. If I click generate comp set, it'll say error. Comp set names can only contain alphabets, numbers, and spaces. That's basically what I just said of no symbols, okay? So, if you're doing like a 2 to 3 bedroom, you got to spell out 2 to 3 bedroom, TO. Okay, then once you generate it, it's going to give you a little pop-up up here, and it's going to say some things that are basically all it's trying to tell you is if you want to apply it to the market dashboard, if you want the specific comp set to show up in these charts down below, then you've got to select it from the comp set area over here. And if you want to see it in portfolio analytics right away, which we'll go through portfolio analytics here in a little bit, then you also need to apply it over here. Otherwise, you got to wait 24 hours. Okay. So I'm just going to say, okay, confirm. And I'm not going to apply it just because it can take some time and I want to keep the webinar. But you'll find it here when you click the drop down, it'll say like ABB webinar test 3 bedroom. If I click that and then I click apply filter, which again, I'm not doing just to save us some load time, all of these numbers and things would change to just those 41 comp set listings that I created, or whatever your comp set number was, right? So now all this data, these reports down here are all specific to that comp set. And since I've applied it here, it will now be available in Portfolio Analytics, which we'll get to in a little bit. Okay, um, perfect. And let's see, I'm just checking my notes. Got that. Some people ask how many comp sets you can create. I think 30 is the max, but you can always view and delete them if you don't need them. Um, Dynamic pricing column. Great question, Joni. So what does the dynamic pricing column mean? It's our best guess at, like, if you're using PriceLabs dynamic pricing, your rates are kind of changing every day, right? Like you've got higher dates for high demand days, lower rates for low demand dates. Um, so we are looking at their calendar, and if their rates are just pretty flat, then they probably are not using any dynamic pricing, and that's what none means. Low is there's some variability. Um, Moderate, I guess, is in between, and then high would is probably somebody using a dynamic pricing tool like PriceLabs. Okay, so it's the likelihood that they're using a dynamic pricing tool, just based on the way their rates are changing. Okay, cool. Then let's see. All right, if you're okay, so this is kind of whole market data. So the last 2 years, you hover on any of these, and it'll give you the numbers. They're written up there at the top, but they're super tiny. A couple things about this. If you click on anytime you see three lines or three dots in PriceLabs, just click on it. It just opens up more options. You could download this data if you wanted to do some further analysis in Excel or that type of an environment. Maybe you want to aggregate this by bedroom category. Um, and then now, now it's even harder to read. But let's say I just want to look from like January. See how when I hover on the chart, little like crosshairs shows up. You can click and drag and it'll zoom in on that section, which still is hard to read, but it's broken down by bedroom categories. You can see down here. Um, I guess we just lumped in 5 to 8. There's probably not a lot um, to separate them out that way. But maybe, let's look at just these 2 months. Might be a little easier to see. So there's the average revenue for um, that specific time frame, right? June and July. If you double click on it, it should zoom out. Yes, it did. Okay. I'm going to switch it back to aggregated. Okay. So revenue for the last 2 years, RevPAR for the last 2 years. Again, if you're an investor and you might not know much about the area, or even if you're a new property manager in the area, like just knowing the historical stuff, right? Like these trends, like the occupancy trends, these numbers all kind of follow an up and down, up, down, up, down, right? So that's your seasonality. Looks like low season is December, January. It also drops again usually after summer. So there's some shoulder seasons, some high seasons, kind of the occupancy you can expect, um, how far in advance people are booking their stays or their lead times by month, and then their median length of stay during those months. Okay. Um, Another area that might be good if you're an investor, maybe you're looking to go into a new area and you want to know, like, is it I guess oversaturated is a term that gets thrown around a lot these days. Obviously, there are things you can do to stand out even in a saturated market, but this supply and demand chart shows, maybe gives some indications if it is becoming oversaturated. So the total booked nights by month and total active listings. Like if you see active listings going up, 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 and total booked nights maybe going down, 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 um, or not increasing in line with the active listings, that might maybe be a sign. Some of it, like the up and downs, some of it's just seasonality. So again, I'm not trying to like say that this particular market's probably fine, but if you see active listings just skyrocketing and book nights not really going up with it, then that could be a sign that it's becoming a little bit competitive, right? Saturated, if you want to use that word. You can also look at this weekly, or there's another way to look at it where it's average bookings per listing. So this one is like here this month in or January, yeah, let's see, January, the average bookings in that month looks like we're two. Um, so, you know, if if you have a listing there, and the chances of you getting at least two bookings in that month is high. You can also break it down weekly. I won't go into that too much, but those are some highlights for um, like if you got that investor hat on, okay? Also, just a little plug, if you are seeing like the number of your active listings increasing in your local market, like I'd encourage you to get connected with, maybe you have some local short-term rental groups. You just want to make sure you're having good relations with your city and local area municipalities, whatever, right? To ensure that short-term rentals can continue to operate in your area. Um, all right, so back to this slide. Now we're gonna kind of put on our new property manager, our new owners hats. Okay, so why we separate out new versus existing or operating is if you're new to a market, you don't have that intuition that like an existing property manager might have, right? Like if you're an existing property manager, you've been around, it's not your first rodeo. But here, if you're new, like you need to rely a little bit more on market data. So you might be wondering like, okay, well, what amenities are popular in the area or things like that. So we're going to jump down here to this amenities section. I just clicked on that. You could also just scroll down till you see this chart. Okay. So this is just listing the common amenities. You might be looking at some of these and thinking, yeah, I think everybody should have that. You're right. It's just those check boxes, right? When you're setting up your listings in Airbnb and you're checking all those boxes, like I provide Wi-Fi, yes, whatever, right? So if you're seeing a lot of those like common things, it means you're just in a market that has a lot of good property managers that are good at checking their boxes and understanding that having all those checked, that if you what you offer, right, in your listing, having all those things checked helps. Um, there are, if you kind of hover on it, for example, Wi-Fi, there's a light pink and a darker red line. So 98.69% of the listings claim they offer it, but 99.7 of the bookings have come for Wi-Fi. Okay. So there's like a slight difference there. If you're seeing like big differences in the pink versus the red, um, essentials, apparently essentials is a very popular item. Let me find another one. An iron, okay? If you don't offer an iron, like that might be helpful. Hair dryer, or maybe you do offer it, but you don't have that box checked. Like just make sure you've got all those boxes checked. Hair dryer has more bookings than the number of listings that offer it. Hangers, right? Like some of it you might look at it and think like hot water. Again, just make sure that's checked on your listing and it might help you get some more visibility. You can add, well, let me scroll down real quick. The basically the difference here, like this 86.4 versus the 78.2, we're showing that down here as desired amenities, so that we're ranking the biggest. So like private entrance, apparently that's really popular. Shower gel. It's, it's gonna, I laugh at some of these, right? Dishes. Um, but okay, garden or backyard, like highlight that. If you have something like that, highlight it, make sure you got pictures of it. Free street parking, refrigerator. Apparently people aren't marking that they have refrigerators. So just offer those things if you show that you've got them if you've got them. At the top here, the three lines, if you wanted to look at something specific, I don't know, we'll say barbecue grill, for example, like, hey, I'm thinking about just adding a grill. Do you think that will add any desirability to my listing? So it'll add it here, barbecue grill. Down here you can see like 3.4, um, and that sort of thing, maybe hot tub, right? Like these are things you can just add in. Hot tub. Let's see. I think it'll remove barbecue grill, but we'll see. But you can decide, it can help you decide, okay, so it looks like not a lot of people offer it in this market. So it might be a way for you to stand out, even though like it looks like not that many people are booking it for that reason. There still is a greater percentage booking it than not, right? So it could be a way if as long as you feature it well and then all those things, it could be a differentiator for you. Okay. So that's one idea for if you're kind of newer to a market and wanting to kind of know what is expected or desired in the market. You might also be wondering, hey, well, like, what is the market offering as far as weekly discounts go or monthly discounts? So it looks like here people are either not offering weekly discounts or it's about 6 to 10%. Again, this is scraped from Airbnb. So if you're offering the weekly discount in Airbnb, or if a person is offering a weekly discount in Airbnb, then it would show up here. My guess is people are doing like 10%. Okay. Monthly discounts, 16 to 20% seems to be the popular area. So you can kind of set your if you're using a monthly discount strategy or a weekly discount strategy, just set your pricing accordingly so that, if they're getting a 10% discount for booking a week, that you're priced the right way, not getting too low of a booking. Cleaning fees, looks like some people are trying to roll their cleaning fees in to their overall costs by not offering them. It does not look like there's any extra I can find desirability of having a pool. Sophia, good question. So you this up here, the desired amenities, so asking about pools, maybe just specific during summer. I would probably create a comp set. So going back to the comp sets, I would create a comp set of people that offer pools and maybe versus people that don't. And then I would compare the two. I'd apply it up here, properties with pools, and I'd look at the average revenue, occupancy, et cetera, all those numbers, all the data, and see if it is how it compares with properties without pools. Because this one up here, like if we added pool, it's kind of it as it says here, it's based on bookings that were made in the last 30 days. Okay, so it's not the whole year, but if you create a comp set, you can see the trends for the last 2 years and into the future with some things. Great question. Okay. Max number of guests, extra person fees, right? So I'm not going to go through all these in detail. Um, Cleaning fees, like maybe this is a sweet spot if I can get somewhere like in the 71 to 105 range, or I don't know if getting lower is feasible for your cleaners, but some you can kind of see the range here is manageable, right? Okay. Then the I mentioned before, like if you're just getting started, you don't have historical data for your own listings. So there is another area in PriceLabs called portfolio analytics. So the way you get there is right here. At the very top, it says portfolio analytics, and then we're going to go to pacing reports. Um, I've got to open in another tab here just to, again to save us some time. So maybe just follow along on my screen for right now. But in portfolio analytics, there is a separate webinar about portfolio analytics. So I'm not going to explain what they are specifically today. You can always watch that recorded webinar. If you click on this little grad cap and then go to train, I think it's training. Yeah. Portfolio analytics, you can watch a recorded webinar um, or would register for an upcoming live webinar about it. Okay, again, that was the grad cap. Oh my gosh, training, portfolio analytics, and our other webinars are here as well. All right, so first it's going to ask if you want to like filter out any listings. For today's purposes, I'm not, but if you have maybe you have a bunch of listings and you want to just look at your 3 bedrooms in my example in that Austin area. You might have tags or groups or however you want to do it, or you just want to filter it by bedroom size and we do a 3 bedroom, right? I'm I'm not gonna filter by anything, but that's you want to compare like to like because we're gonna pull in a comp set that we created from a market dashboard to use to compare to our property's performance. So I'm just gonna change this to like daily. Um, You have these different date selections to choose from, or you can create your own custom. I'm just going to do last 3 months. Next 3 months, I'm going to pick the appropriate market dashboard for the properties that I want to compare it to. I'll just pick Dallas for this one. And for now, I'm just going to click all bedrooms, but this is where you would select your specific comp set. So kind of again, if this was like a three, I'd find my comp set that I want and apply it and then update charts. Okay. So it's going to show, once it loads, some comparison numbers. So this listed price is showing like ranges percentile wise of where properties in the area are pricing or where their nightly rates are at. And then the dotted line is like your last seen price for your property. So you can kind of see how that compares. But where it really gets, I think, interesting is this occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. So lots of lines going on here. Um, I'm going to hide a couple just to explain. So we're first going to look at occupancy. So the solid gray line is your occupancy like currently versus your occupancy last year, which is the dotted line. So you can see how it compares. Um, and I'm going to hide last year and see, let's just say, because if you're new and you don't have historical occupancy data, then you can look at just how it's comparing with the market right now. Okay, so our occupancy was lower than, pacing behind the market, some here, pacing behind here. Looks like we have opportunities to hopefully increase our occupancy somehow. Okay, if you wanted to see where the market was last year, that's the red dotted line. It looks like the market's done a little bit worse than last year in some areas as well. So again, just providing some context for you. ADR, same sort of thing. I'm not going to hide, well, I'll hide the last year for now. But wow, okay, so we beat the market on ADR even though our occupancy was down. Like, is that good or bad? Let's see how it balances out with the RevPAR. So I'll hide the last year one again. It looks like for this time frame it worked out. Whatever, like our ADR was high enough that it offset our low occupancy and we were beating the market. That solid gray line is above the solid red line in the market. Looks like our weekends, I'm assuming they're weekends because they're spiking up, are doing pretty okay. So if I'm looking at this and my strategy is I'm not as concerned about occupancy. I want high ADRs and I don't go lower than a certain amount, whatever, right? Like maybe I'm okay with this. I might also be thinking, hey, I wonder if I had a little more wiggle room on my ADRs, if I could increase my occupancies a bit, would that overall give me a net, would that increase my RevPAR overall? You know, I, some of revenue management is just trial and error, right? So something to consider and try, and maybe not on all your properties, maybe on some, do some A/B testing, right? But this is how you can use market dashboard comp sets to compare with the market. And it's especially, I, even if you're an existing property manager, like this chart is super helpful, but especially if you don't have historical data to go off of, you can see how you're pacing compared with your market dashboard comp set. Okay. Um, Another area in PriceLabs that you can apply um, comp sets is in um, the neighborhood data. So if you pull up a listing calendar and you go to neighborhood data, the first couple of charts, sorry, I should have had this one preloaded. Um, the future prices, occupancy charts show some market comparison data. And by default, it's the nearest like 350 properties of similar bedroom size. Okay. But let's say I wanted to kind of going back to that other question, maybe you have a property with a pool and you want to just look at like, yeah, you like seeing the general market, but maybe you want to have a comp set. So once it loads the three lines up here, click on that and then changes from nearby listings to market dashboard. And then let's say I had one that was like, I guess this is a fake listing, but 6-bedroom cabin in Park City, Maybe I've got something similar to that with pools or something. Oh, well, that's a one bedroom with pool. But I would find the appropriate one, right? And I would apply it. Let me just find this is this is a totally different market. So then the data is going to look weird, but the shaded areas in the background, these red lines, and I think even this market history data would change to once you have applied a specific comp set. So I'm going to apply that. There should be a drastic difference since it's an Austin market versus a Park City market. And yeah, so the black line is where my rates are. Shaded areas are the percentiles in the market. The occupancy lines changed, and I think these numbers changed too. I didn't pay, in all honesty, I didn't pay close attention to what these numbers were before. Okay, so now, if you got your specific comp set and you want to see how your rates compare, maybe I would then make some different pricing adjustments. I might go to my pricing calendar and see, like, this weekend, again, if this was correct data, this weekend people are going really high here as well, like what it's going on that weekend and how do I want to adjust my prices accordingly. Okay. So in the last 9-ish minutes we have, we're going to put on our existing operating property managers hats, and we're going to jump into um, length of stay and booking window. Oh, go away. Length of stay and booking window. All right, I'm just gonna scroll. Okay, so here, just making sure I didn't skip anything. Yeah. All right, Layla's typing that. Thank you, Layla. All right, length of stay and booking window trends. So this first one, I think it looks like a mountain on fire, so I lovingly call it the mountain on fire chart. The what you're looking at here is based on these colors. So length of stays, 29 plus, so like kind of midterm rentals are going to be the darker area, and then it kind of goes up from there. Apparently, we just like shades of black and gray and red at PriceLabs. But anyway, if you hover on any specific day, it'll tell you it looks like there were 9 stay nights that were one day. Um, the base nightly price, I don't like that word. I think it's just average, like the average nightly price for those stays. Okay. There were, let's see, the most popular time length of stay in this state is 3 to 4 days. October 19th, for whatever reason, is popular in Austin right now. If anybody's in that area, let me know what's going on there. But anyway, there are 112 3 to 4 day stay nights going on that day. Okay. Um, okay. There's a question. I'll let our team get to that one. Um, what I can do down here, if you see there's this like grayed out bar here and then this little dot, you can click and drag back to go historical. So maybe we just want to see like the last since let's just go to the last January. Okay. And then I might bring in this side a little bit just to kind of focus on a specific time frame. I might look here and think, hey, okay, is there any like noticeable differences in lengths of stay where I might be able to capitalize on changing my minimum stay strategy for certain times of the year, maybe holidays or events? Do I want to like maybe normally my minimum stay requirement is just a 2-night minimum, but is there evidence showing that people are staying longer during, I don't know, Christmas, for example? So here's kind of the Christmas time frame. It does look like people are staying a little longer, so you could set up a minimum stay strategy for the dates around Christmas that maybe is like a 7-night minimum if they're going to book far out into the future. And it drops down, maybe to a 5-night once it gets a little closer, and maybe three, and maybe eventually down to a 2-night if it's within like a week, right? So I'm just looking at what look to, like appear to be key dates. Like summer might be a time where we might have a different minimum stay than our slow season, right? And this is just giving you evidence to back up those gut feelings that you have and creating reverse engineering to create a minimum stay strategy that capitalizes on those opportunities. Combine that with this length of stay versus booking window chart. This one right now just shows the previous 30 days. So bookings made in the last 30 days, booking window here on the left, booked nights. So in other words, people are booking either same day or next day quite a bit in this market. So it's a very last minute market. You do have some, booking in advance as well. When people are staying, looks like it's a healthy midterm potential market, right? So if that's your strategy and you're looking for markets that have midterm opportunities, maybe you like that, or maybe you're thinking, oh, there's a lot doing that already. Maybe I want to be in a different market where I stand out, and I don't know, right? I'm just kind of throwing out different scenarios. I'm going to click these three lines, and I'm going to change it from booked nights to, well, let me just explain something. Booked nights. So another reason why this number might be high is it is booked night. So by nature of a booked night, if I am booking a 29 night stay, I've in my booked nights is 29. So it's a bigger chunk than a 1 day booked night, if that makes sense. So if you change it to um, bookings, then it'll show you the number of bookings. Okay, see how it shifted? So maybe we only got, I don't know, a handful of bookings that were 29 plus, but we got a lot of 1 day, 2 day, 3 to 4 day and 3 to 4 day seems to be a pretty good sweet spot. And then here's how it looks, bookings for booking window. Okay. Now I'm going to overlay the two charts. So bookings by length of stay and booking window. And now it's going to break it down. So okay, I know people are booking 3 to 4 days, but how does that break down for lead time? So it's overlaying the two charts. So if I hover on this, I can see a good chunk of people that are booking 3 to 4 days are booking, like they're 110 right here. They're booking 2 to 4 months in advance. You've also got a good chunk booking 2 to 6 days in advance, right? So um, there's some of that. Or here, if you're trying to capitalize on people that are booking within a week, maybe we want to lower it down to have at least a 2 night minimum. If you're allowing 1 night minimums, that would kind of be the sweet time to at least make sure you have 1 nights available for that strategy if you're having like a different minimum stay for based on lead time. Okay. You can also kind of compare this in if you watch the portfolio analytics webinar, it's kind of a sneak peek, but there's a very similar chart. It's like pretty much the exact same chart in portfolio analytics. So you can compare your performance versus the market and see, if there are differences and ask the right questions to see like like I don't know, maybe you're not getting any 2 to 4 month bookings, but the market is. You can look at your 2 to 4 month time frame and ask yourself, how does my pricing look? Is it prohibitive to getting bookings? How does my minimum stay look? Is it prohibitive to receiving bookings, right? Like maybe you're requiring a 15 night minimum stay 2 months and into the future, but with this evidence, you might want to drop it down to, at least a 7 or 5 or 4 or 3 night, depending on your strategy. Okay. Um, I think that about covers that. Um, if you have any questions on, booking windows, length of stays, drop those in. Just a couple other kind of tips and tricks. I mentioned this already. Click the three lines on any of these. If you see like any of these bars down here, just drag them back. This is the future prices. So I kind of like to see the historical rates because if you're looking into the future, people often, let me pull it back over like here, somebody just raised their rates a whole ton. They're leaving their calendar open, but instead of like blocking their calendar, they're just raising their rates. So, future rates, everybody's always trying to ask for more. Um, I'm gonna click on this. You can add in median booked price and any dates in the future that have, and I guess historically that have at least 5 bookings will have this. I'm gonna have to zoom in to get rid of that big bar. It'll show you the median booked price in the market. So that's a little helpful. This shows occupancy. Again, I can go historical, um, I can add in pickup, which is in the this one's a 30-day pickup. So in the last 30 days, how many bookings have come in for these specific dates? For example, here, October 17th, the market's already 26.5% occupied. 4.9% of that 26.5 came within the last 30 days. Um, you can also see if like cancellations are happening in what areas. So I just clicked on it to add it back in. You click on it and it'll hide it. So those are just a couple other pro tips. And then this one, people like this area just to kind of see key future dates, making sure you're aware of these and the market signals that are happening. So um, that should cover everything from market dashboards today. Thank you so much for sticking around. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to support@pricelabs.co, or within the tool itself, you can click on these three dots, start a chat if you want, and it'll go to a live person. Um, there's an initial like few questions like robot style, but then it connects you to a live person if we can't help you answer it that way. And if for some reason a live person is not available, it'll just get converted into a ticket and we'll email you shortly. Our response times are usually pretty good, especially during like working hours. We're good there. So I will just, if there are any questions, okay, thank you. Great. Thank you, Joni. Glad that was helpful. Um, yeah, I'll stick around for like another minute if there are any questions, and we will see you on another webinar. Thanks for coming. Yeah. All right, don't see any questions coming in, so we will end this now. Thanks, everyone.